So it happens to all of us as writers. We reach those times where maybe the ideas aren't flowing that easily, or you feel stuck. You feel like you've reached a hurdle, nothing's coming to you. You just don't know what to write. You don't know where to go next. In other words, writer's block. So what do? A lot of writers rely on writing prompts to get them started. And I'm here to talk about why I don't think that's a great idea. Hey, everybody, I'm Ricky Haller. I'm a writer, editor, and book coach. And I help you tap into the writer inside of you so you can find your authentic voice and finally share your message with the world. Okay, so writing prompts, I mean, it sounds like a great idea, right? It's statements or concepts that you then focus on, and maybe you set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes and you just write. And you might ask yourself a question like, what is your most sad childhood memory? Or write about the place that has the most happy events, that where the most happy events occurred for you. Or maybe write about your favorite childhood pet, something like that. And what that does is it gives you a focus when your mind might otherwise be blank, a focus for you to write on, and you produce. Sometimes when I've worked with these prompts in the past, I produced maybe 4 or 5 pages of writing. But here's the thing. Does that writing have anything to do with the book you're working on? Does that writing help you to write a better piece for that magazine article you're working on? In my opinion, it doesn't. I would much rather see you work on something connected to the piece of writing that you're working on. Now, that's not to say that writing prompts aren't a good exercise, sort of in terms of just the abstract. So, like maybe I'm not working on a particular piece. Maybe I want to specifically develop my descriptive abilities. So then I could go and write something about my childhood bedroom and recreate it using all of that sensory information, all of the colors, all of the shapes. For sure, that's a great writing exercise. But that's not going to give me those ideas that I feel are lacking, or it's not going to get me over that hump when it comes to working on my novel, because my novel is about a specific protagonist in a specific place, specific time, and she's going through something. So, what I tend to do, because I want to use my writing time as efficiently as I can. And if I've set aside an hour a day to work on my novel, I'm going to be sure I'm working on my novel during that time. If I'm doing writing exercises to work on my craft, I can do that at a different time. When I'm there, and let's say I sit down at my desk in the morning and I don't know what to do next, I have a few options ahead in front of me. I can write anyway. So I can start writing something to do with this novel that maybe isn't directly related to that scene where I feel stuck. Now I can jump to the end of the book and say, okay, how am I going to wrap this up? Let me write the final chapter of the book now. Or I can even do backstory, which is kind of a variation on that prompt because it may or may not ultimately fit into the book, but it still helps me shape the characters, get a better idea of who they are, and move forward in that way. So, for instance, let's say my protagonist, at the moment, she's in Florida, which is where I wish I was right now. So, at the moment, she's in Florida and she's working on a book. And she has a daughter who's going to be coming to visit her later in the book. Well, if I'm stuck on this particular scene where she's sitting at the pool and looking around, I can then skip to something else to do with her daughter and maybe write a little bit about what happened when her daughter was 5 and how they interacted and why her daughter feels the way she does about her mother. Now, that may or may not directly fit into the scene. However, it is going to shape the way I write the book because the interactions between the mother and the daughter are going to be there throughout the whole book. So it still helps me move forward with my book, even though I've kind of done something similar to a writing prompt there. The other thing that I sometimes do, as I said, is I'll skip to a completely different scene and I'll write that. Now, every writer knows that when you write a first draft of something, I would say 100% of the time, your first draft is not going to be your final draft. So even if you love your first draft, there's always going to be changes that you make later when you write. And this applies to nonfiction too. I mean, I've done this with personal narratives and memoir related writing, where my first draft, it includes everything that I was able to throw out there without my censor getting in the way. But then I'm going to tweak it, I'm going to edit it, I'm going to change it. So the same thing applies there. Even if I wrote the end of a piece and I might really like it, by the time I revise that first draft, I may change it. But that's still part of the thought process related to that one specific article or that one novel. It's connected to what I was writing. And for me personally, I think it's just much more important to keep the work that you're focused on moving forward as you go. So I hope that's helpful. So just to recap, you can write a different part of the book. You can expand on something specific in the book. You can even do a description of the book in general or some part of something that, like a specific scene in the book or a specific setting in the book. But again, it's related to the thing you're working on now. I think that maintains your focus and allows you to keep writing. And there have been times when I sat down at my desk feeling blocked and I start doing something like that and it just doesn't feel like it's coming to me. But if I push through and I keep writing for, I'm going to say usually it's around the 10-minute mark, things begin to flow. And then I might go back to where I was earlier or just go off on a brand new thread related to my book or my article, and something magical happens, and the ideas are just flowing. And sometimes I come up with an idea that's even better than the one that I started with in that particular piece of writing. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you can take these tips and apply them to your own writing. I would love to be able to share more with you. I want to tell you about a new environment that I've created for writers. It's called Write with Ricky. It's a live Zoom meeting every Tuesday morning at 8:30 Eastern time, where we just meet up on a Zoom call. We check in for a couple of seconds, but nothing's obligatory. If you don't want to speak, that's great. Then we write in silence for almost an hour. And again, there's an optional check-in at the end. And what this does is it gives you a place to come and write. And if you are blocked, let's say you do have some kind of writer's block or some kind of challenge in your writing that you're not sure how to get through, that's why I save time at the end of the meeting. It's a live interaction with me where you can ask me to look over your work. You can ask for feedback on your work. You can ask the group if you want to. You can read us a small part of your work and we'll give you feedback on it. It's really a place for writers to focus, get their writing done, get some feedback if they want it, and have that accountability where every Tuesday at 8:30 we get together and we write. And that time is set aside, and I show up whether I feel like writing or not at that moment, whether I feel blocked or not. And once I get going, like I said, more often than not, about 10 minutes in, things begin to flow and it's just kind of magical. So I hope you will join us. I'm going to put the link in the caption below. And in case you don't see that, it's bit.ly, bit.ly/Write with Ricky, and just capitalize each of those 3 words, Write with Ricky, and that will take you right to our meeting on Tuesday mornings. Hope to see you there and hope this was helpful. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.